Hey everyone, this is Doug Kenny. I'm with my coach and mentor, actor Andy McPhee, and we welcome you to Tales from the Mat. Today we have the Manson Brothers with us from the Midnight Zombie Massacre. Hey guys, how you doing?
Good, Doug. How are you?
Fantastic, Doug. Doug and
Hey,
Andy, thanks for having us on, man. This is awesome.
Yeah, thanks for taking the time, guys.
our
Anytime.
pleasure. Really.
And I got to say, I love the movie. It was
Thanks,
hilarious.
man.
Like,
Thank
really,
you so much.
Thank
Thank
yeah,
you
yeah,
very, very much.
yeah, it was really, really cool. Like, just for those who don't know, I was a pro wrestler back in the day, 30 years ago, and that's how my acting career started. And Doug and myself met up with a lot of mentoring and coaching, and we've come to this point today with Doug, who's a young man who deals with high functioning autism. And he's also a young man who's taking care of his health from dropping from 320 pounds down to 200. And I think we're going to have to get him in the ring, guys.
Aye.
Him up.
Let's go.
Baby. Yeah,
I'll
200's
pump
so
around for you.
good.
So, Doug, you head off, mate, with a few questions, because otherwise, if I start, I'll never stop.
All right. So, guys, tell us about the film you were in that's very successful so far.
Well, that's right now we're getting a lot of great feedback. The majority of our feedback has been overwhelmingly positive. We don't know what the numbers are yet because it just came out several weeks ago. But we're getting awesome feedback. It's just a little movie that's fun, and we didn't make it to be profound or socially relevant in any way. We just wanted to make something fun and combined our collective experience of professional wrestling, and we merged it with a horror genre, and it happened to be the zombie genre for this one, and it worked out really great. It's just about a couple of over-the-hill professional wrestlers that Chris and I actually are a couple of over-the-hill professional wrestlers, so that was easy. And they're trapped in an arena with a zombie virus, and their job is to try and prevent it from getting out of the arena and causing an all-out pandemic. Ooh, the big buzzword of the last couple of years, pandemic.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, right. And so in the middle, you find all these goofy characters. And what we tried to do with a lot of the movie was sort of pull the curtain back on the world of independent professional wrestling here, especially the really independent world. So you see a lot of in wrestling these days of these guys who were former WWE or WCW or AWA superstars now, and they're, sort of relegated to working these independent promotions, which, independent promotions now are different from when they used to be actual sort of territories in the States anyway. And now it's just sort of guys that are running these spot shows back and forth. And that's pretty much what it is. But it's two guys that are trying to squeeze the last remaining bit of value out of their former star status, which Chris and I never had that anyway, but so it was fun for us to be that. But and the brothers are idiots. One of them is a bust out gambler and a drunk, and the other one can't spell his own name right. So it's it's funny. I irritate the shit out of him, and he's constantly aggravated, and it makes for good scenes. And all the rest of the characters are very colorful, and they're actually based on a lot of real guys that we know. So
that's awesome. That's really funny.
It's all
So, Chris, what's your take on that too, mate? Since he just insulted you, I think.
Yeah, well, that's kind of our shtick, so I don't take offense to it that much. Totally agree with everything Mike said. I think, one of the things for me, and I think that we're really proud of, is that guys like yourselves, especially somebody who's been in the ring before, appreciates it and likes the film.
yeah, absolutely.
One of the things that we wanted to, like Mike said, kind of stay true and to the sport, particularly to independent wrestling. That was kind of the big thing because we saw the guys that we're portraying come through all the time, and both good and bad. Some of the guys were great, some of the guys weren't so great. So I think we really wanted to dig in, not incredibly deep, but into the characters so that you knew this life that they were experiencing at the time, before all hell breaks loose and they're forced into a situation that, these are really kind of reluctant, we used to call it street level superhero, right? And that's what we wanted to make it look like was not just two guys who have to deal with this thing, and not like a Marvel character who has to deal with it, but somebody that was right in between, that didn't really have any superpower necessarily, but also dressed like a complete cartoon character. To kind of give it that thing from an action perspective. So, but I think I can speak for Mike when I say we're super proud with the finished product, and just really happy that the people that really dig the genre that we're in have been very receptive to it.
Yeah, very kind.
Look, I think it's amazing. Seriously, I brought a Big J. What was Jay's character in the movie?
Captain Marvelous. Yes, Captain Marvelous.
It's hilarious, man. Like we live in the same apartment building, and Jay is, as you guys know, he's a heart walking on legs. Like he's such a wonderful, beautiful man. Like,
totally.
That is hilarious. Like it's so funny.
Well, I would say this about Jay. I feel really lucky because Jay, as somebody that I didn't know going into the film, I would agree exactly with what you said. He was the guy that I kind of ran with when Mike wasn't around. I hung out a lot of the time with Jay and got to be, pretty close with him. And I feel blessed that was the case, because not only is he a phenomenal actor, he's a phenomenal guy. And, one of my favorite stories about Jay is that when we were going through the casting process, Max would send Mike and I videos of people when they were doing their taped auditions. Right. And I can remember breaking down a long story very short. When Mike and I saw Jay, it was like, that's the guy. Like there was no doubt about it. Like the minute we saw his audition, he was it.
His performance, it's so nuanced, and you only get that with a really high level actor, as you know, Andy. And a lot of people that are in the movies don't know who Jay is, but you should, because he's an absolutely phenomenal actor. He makes it look so easy, and it's not. Especially that character he plays is a very complicated character, and he plays him just to the hilt. And originally we had cast somebody else. When Chris and I were casting this in Chicago a couple of years before, we had another guy cast, a comedian named Chad Ario, who was awesome. And when we moved the production into Mexico, Max didn't want to use any of our people. And Chris and I thought, we're never going to find a perfect guy like this, but we were wrong, because and even Chad had watched the film and said, oh my God, that guy was great. He was amazing. And he really was. And that character is based on a real guy, by the way. That story about the lottery ticket and all that we told, that's a real story. That happened. Yeah. That's why we called him Captain Miserable. The guy was never happy. Yeah, he's the kind of guy you give a gold bar to, and he's mad because he hurt his back putting it into his car.
I'll say this too about Jay. Like, of all the reviews that I've seen written, and look, everybody in the movie is absolutely phenomenal. So I'm not trying to pick one guy out, but he's the one guy who's been singled out by reviewers the most as like, oh my God, this guy's performance is just like, it stands out. He did such a great job with it. I mean,
well, you know what, with Jay, I'll send you guys a link, and Doug will put it on here, a little snippet of I met this editor from Deadpool randomly here in LA, and we're talking, and asked me what I did, and I said, oh, actor. And then he goes, oh, okay. He said, yeah, I think I've seen you in a few things, And I said, oh, thanks, man. He goes, well, I've just got this script from New York. This guy wants to produce this short film, and I want to direct it. So long story short, we did. And he said, oh, I'm looking for 2 or 3 other actors. So I said, oh, give me a description. I went, oh, he lives next door to me. I got the perfect guy, right? So I got Jay. And I got another guy I met in Uber years ago, Joseph. He's a young actor who I've become really good friends with. And he's just got a series up, a little TV series that he wrote. So we got him in it. And when you see Jay in this movie to what he did in yours, that's why he's such a great actor, because they're two polar opposite characters.
Oh, he can play anything, man.
I think Jay can play anything.
Musicals. The guy can do anything. The fact that he's 6'5" and weighs 400 and some pounds is, you can't find too many guys that'll fit that bill and have acting chops.
Yeah.
He has. There was another character in the movie named Big Wang, And originally it was supposed to be a big Asian guy, but we couldn't find a big Asian guy that could act. So we changed him to a guy that actually has a big wang. So that's how that character happened.
Yeah, he was perfect, man. Like I tell you that, and there's a guy I met who actually dressed in the same color costume, and he wasn't as big as Jay, but wasn't far off. Exactly the same character that we used to wrestle with in Melbourne. Exactly the same.
Love it.
And I'll tell you, that was one of those things where, when you, as a writer, Chris and I were like, we knew we weren't going to get what was in our head, respectively, exactly on screen. But when we saw Jay in that costume, all we told him he's got like an Evel Knievel type jumpsuit, with sort of an Elvis swagger. And when he walked out, we were like, holy shit. They hit it like,
my eyes were like this big. It was so perfect.
It was
so
perfect.
That's funny. That's hilarious.
Except he couldn't go to the bathroom in it. That was the only problem.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, that was. I was just going to bring that up. That was just. That's not the casting.
And that was practical. That was a true practical effect.
Yeah.
Doug, another question, mate.
Yeah, just a comment before I get to my question. I admire that you guys put a sense of realism into the movie, because when you write a script, you can't help but look at what's gone on to you and around you when you come up with a story. So right. I've done that before. But yeah, anyway, what was the best part about, or funniest part about making the movie?
Chris?
Wow. The funniest
I'll give
part.
you mine.
This is going to sound crazy, but we've got, and it's a really long story, so I'll try to tell it very briefly. There's a gentleman named Jay DeMarcus who's in the film. If you remember, he plays Chip Abernathy, who's the real asshole talking to the doorman who's taking tickets. Yep. Well, Jay, who many people don't know, or which is crazy, is in one of the biggest country music bands in the world. It's a band called Rascal Flatts. They're just nominated for every award. They've been around for 10, 20 years.
Wow.
So, I mean, in the country music world, he's a legitimate superstar, like super duper star. So, sorry, Dave Meadows, for telling the story, but Dave Meadows, who plays Carson Murdoch, we happened to be around Video Village, and nobody else was around, but Jay DeMarcus is sitting in his chair. He's kind of bloody. He's got blood on him from the scene before. And Dave's asking him questions like, hey, man, where are you from?
They don't know each other.
They don't know each other. No, they haven't met. Dave introduces himself. And I happen to be just a fly on the wall, right? And Dave says, where are you from? And he's like, oh, I'm from Nashville. Oh, man, is there a lot of work in Nashville? You getting a lot of acting work? He's like, no, not a ton, but I got another job, So Jay's like totally downplaying this thing. And he says, yeah. And Jay's like, oh, so what else do you do? And he's like, I'm in a band, And Dave says, oh, what kind of music you play? Country, yeah. So what do you do, like local clubs and stuff like that around Nashville? And he's like, no, I mean, we play bigger places from time to time. But like bigger, what do you mean? He's like,
arenas.
Well, we tour the country and we do some arenas and we do some, stadiums and things like that. And Dave's like, so what's the name of your band? And Jay says, Rascal Flatts. And Dave gets this look on his face and he's like, there's just this pause. And he says, like, the Rascal Flatts? And he's like, yeah, Rascal Flatts. And, oh, that's one of my favorite bands. And it's like, really? There's a guy sitting there and you don't recognize him.
That's hilarious.
I thought that was the funniest part for me. Just the whole production. So
but
nobody else was there to see it. So it was just me. I was the only guy who can tell the story.
It's sort of like talking to Robert De Niro and saying, so how's your acting going, mate?
Right, yeah. So you getting any work?
How's everything going, man? You getting work? Yeah.
Robert De Niro would be like, are you talking to me?
Yeah. Yeah, totally. I think my funniest part was we had Randy Couture, who was awesome, and Bas Rutten, both legitimate badasses in the mixed martial arts world. And Randy had worked with Steven Seagal at one point when he was breaking in as a stuntman, and he told us the story about how Steven Seagal told him, "Oh yeah, one time I'll teach you how to punch one time." And like Randy was already like the UFC champion and all that other stuff. Like, you're going to teach Randy Couture how to throw a punch, you pompous ass, right? So Chris and I bought this life-size stand-up of Steven Seagal, and we put it in his locker, in his trailer. So when Randy came in the morning, he saw the thing and he backed up. And it was a running joke on the set. Every once in a while, Steven Seagal would show up, standing in the scenery or whatever, and people would punch him in the face and put him in headlocks. And we had another one, was an inside joke when we were casting. Max Martini, who directed the movies from 13 Hours and 50 Shades of Grey and Pacific Rim and on and on and on. Been in a million things.
Wow.
So Max and I are talking, and I told Chris, I'm gonna mess with him a little bit because Max is kind of gullible and I can tell a good story. So I said, Max, because we were having trouble casting the Carson Murdoch part. This is before David Meadows got casted. And so I said, I got a guy, he's a good friend of mine. We go way back. I'm going to ask him to do it. He's kind of a bigger name actor, but I don't know his name, if his name will do anything for us. But he said, hey man, I'll help you out if you want. So Max goes, well, who is it? And I go, Hugh Jackman. And there's a long pause. And he goes, Hugh Jackman? You know Hugh Jackman? And I was trying to carry the joke on, but his response was so funny that I fucking cracked up. I go, I don't fucking know Hugh Jackman. I haven't any idea who Jackman was. So we bought a big giant Hugh Jackman stand-up, and we would put it near Video Village once in a while. So every once in a while, Hugh Jackman would show up, or Steven Seagal would show up, or so there were
a lot of cardboard stand-ups.
There was a lot of running. There was a lot of practical jokes on the set, which was great.
A lot of gags.
Fun.
That's hilarious, mate. I got a friend of mine. I better not mention his name, but he's pretty tough guy. No, I better not. But anyway,
Jackman.
That's Hugh Jackman.
That's him. Hang on.
Or is it Russell Crowe?
Oh no, those stand-ups behind me.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, he popped. What's his name?
Van Damme.
Yeah, Van Damme. Yeah, he popped him on set.
I think I know who you're talking about. I know exactly who you're talking about because I heard that story.
Yeah, he used to ride motorbikes.
Yes.
Yeah,
I know exactly.
Does his name start with?
Yeah, something like that.
I was gonna say, does it rhyme with?
Yeah, it sounds like that.
That sounds just like that. Rhymes with.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, he just worked with our friend with Mindy on a movie.
Yeah, he worked with Randy on something just recently.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I did. Oh yeah. They're doing Mr. Q in New York, I think, with Amanda Asante, I think.
Well, Randy just did a film with him out in the desert in Nevada, like Dark Angels or something like that. Chuck played a biker, believe it or not, in the movie.
Right.
So.
So Mindy, who plays Shirlene in our movie at the beginning, the hillbilly wife, she wrote it.
Yeah.
So it's her movie, and they produced it. And Chuck was one of the guys in there, and they got all these great actors, and I think it's gonna be really good. So we'll see. So shout out to you, Mindy.
That's cool, man. Like, that's good. Like this is like I owe pro wrestling. Like coming from a judo career and many years now, I took up pro wrestling when I was couldn't do the judo anymore, and it was the pro wrestling that got me into acting. So that's why I love it. Because me getting into acting years later, here's my son maybe possibly getting nominated for a best supporting actor in the film.
That's awesome.
Amazing.
My daughter's acting. So pro wrestling really opened a whole bunch of doors, and I never wanted to be an actor. So I started at 38. So acting, pro wrestling.
So did I. It's exactly the same.
Really? I was like 34. I mean, we talk a lot about the symbiotics of the two things, and one of the things that I think often doesn't get brought up is the timing aspect. And you got to have it in wrestling for sure. And I think that transitions over into acting, where I think it's equally as important, if not more important.
Yeah. I mean, Andy, how many times have you been asked, okay, we need you to walk from here to here, hit this mark right on it, say your line, then do this, and we need it done in one take.
Yeah.
So but as a wrestler, you're used to being able to hitting the marks. I mean, if you're good at anything, you're good at hitting the marks. And that's one of the reasons that I was able to get work right away here in Chicago, because I could do all the physical stuff they would ask. Oh, can you do this and do that? Still say the lines. And by the way, we only got 2 shots at it. And I was like, well, okay, I can do that. And that's all because of wrestling. You and I have a similar background. So I come from a martial arts background also.
Yeah.
And that's how I got into wrestling. So it's sort of the same sort of thing.
You know what? It's with Armando Asante. I met him, it must have been 25 years ago. He came to Australia to do a remake of On the Beach, the Gregory Peck movie.
Yeah.
And Armando was playing that role. And it's the first time I've met him. And like, I was really like over the moon to be able to work. I've only been acting for 5 years, and I got this great little role, plenty of dialogue, all with Armando. And it was a bit of, I think, am I pronouncing his name right? Because I don't want anyone to.
Armando Asante, yeah, you got it.
Yeah. So we had a bit of a fights thing to do, and the stunt guy came up and whispered. He said, "He's a method actor. You want to be careful." I said, "It's okay," because this stunt coordinator was an ex-pro wrestler. I said, "It's all right, mate." I said, "We'll work it out." Let me tell you, it was like the elbows were coming up, and they were that close. If I hadn't done the wrestling, I'm sure I would have copped a broken nose.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and my offside of the guy who was playing my sort of, he had I don't think he had any dialogue, but what happened is Armando sort of elbowed me, and then he backhanded him, but he was actually backhanding the guy, like backhanded him. By the end of the scene, this guy's face was just red down here, like, because he kept copping this backhand, right? Because he didn't know how to. And Armando's just like bang, just
they'll stick it to you, man.
He was full on. But when we finished that scene, because he hit me, knocked me down, and they said, "Oh, Andy, we need to get blood on you." I said, "It's all right, just give it to me in my hand." I said, I'll hide it. I said, when he hits me, I'll hit the deck, I'll pour it all over myself and come up. I went, "Oh, perfect." You know, all from wrestling, right? Because you know how to do that.
Absolutely.
And Armando took me down the back, and I'll never forget this. He just said, "Hey, brother, got to tell you something." He goes, "What you're doing is really good." He said, "One day you should get yourself to LA." And I said, "Oh, well, man, thanks." And that was really big for me, someone like that saying that.
Absolutely.
But it wasn't me who got us to LA, it was my son, but we still got here, you know?